The sun is in my eyes, so I'm going to be really, really squinty. Um, so, long story short, is I am sitting on top of a building with my friend Danny, who I've known since I was a childhood, and I was talking to him about an idea, and this is just completely a thought process. This isn't actually something that can be brought down to scientific fact just yet. It's probably something that could actually work out into a blueprint, but I've had the idea of actually spreading this idea and starting an Opinions by Kyle series, just because my vlogging I'm not really doing every day anymore, and I don't know, I have some ideas I have no problem spreading, and yet at the same time, people are probably going to be like, "You're crazy fucktard, don't be talking about shit like that, rah, rah, rah." And then, like, more crazier people might be like, "We have to stop him." I was having a conversation with a friend of mine probably about 4 months ago, and he explained to me that utopia isn't that hard to attain. It's just that people have been so attacking one another with the different ideas of socialism, communism, capitalism, and there's probably like a dozen more different ways to be able to form government, but I'm going to use those three as a formology for the beginning here. So we're currently in an economic crisis, and I'm not talking just about the United States. The entire world as a whole is beginning to have a monetary downfall. The European Union itself is talking about what to do in case it happens, and my friend explained to me, that's usually what they say when it's already happening. Here in the United States, we're having also a huge monetary worth gap where the rich are becoming richer and the poor are becoming poorer, and the middle class is just beginning to dissolve and disappear. So my crazy ideas for utopia, and my way of looking at it is capitalism, socialism, communism, they all have good points to them. Me studying them in class way back in high school, I think to myself, the idea of everybody having free food is a fantastic idea. Meanwhile, everybody being on the exact same level and getting the same amount of pay for different types of work and different types of studying, that's a horrible and stupid idea. I'm also trying to find a good way to be able to construct this without sounding really, really stupid, which I come across as many, many times. So let's start with a basic blueprint then. Currently here in the United States, we have a very high percentage of homeless population, and just to be able to make a fact of like how bad our monetary system is failing us here in the United States, not to say that capitalism is a bad thing, but it needs to have reins on it to be able to control what happens with it. But we have like 7 homes for every homeless person on the streets. I mean, let that sink in for a moment here, and the only reason that is because we have made it to such a point where our homes are costing so much because of the way our monetary value has changed. And not to divert onto that kind of a convergence, but I'm trying to make a structure here. So, we have a homeless population, and we have these homeless shelters that have these mandates of these standards of exactly what you have to have in a homeless shelter, and the basic needs of human conditions here living, and there's a health and sanitation department in control of all of this. And when it comes down to the main basis of it, nobody gives a damn what they have as long as they have a roof over their head. There's people just living in their cars, and a cab of a car is not that big. And if you think about it, we could ram hundreds of people into a building if you just give them a simple 3-foot by 7-foot cubby hole. And all they need is a bed, a roof over their head, and an alarm clock. That's all people really, really want. They'll put up with their neighbors as long as they have a roof over their head. And then you simply have community washing service locations, community cooking locations. It's basically a college dorm on steroids. So that's a form, and you give this all away for free, and that's a form of socialism. At least I think that is. And then nobody really needs to have a 5-course meal every night, but having bread and cheese and rice that would make a lot of homeless people very happy to have full stomachs. So basically, give them that. It's not that complicated. It's just that there's such a monetary driven standard to our society today that nobody's going to do this. You go talk to people and say, I want to start a homeless shelter that's going to change the way we think of homeless shelters. And then people are going to say, all right, I'll invest in it, but how do I make profit off of it? And there's too many people driven with that kind of a mentality anymore. And it's not a bad mentality. It's just, it's not going to aid those in need. And we need more of a thought process of what can we do for the populace instead of what can we do for the monetary gain. And people watching this are going to say, well, I don't have that kind of mentality. That's true, you probably don't, but there's so many people in this world who do, and it's one of those kind of things where we have to, well, it's happening. We're having a cultural awakening throughout the entire earth right now, and it's breathtaking to watch. It really is. My conversation just completely got screwed, didn't it? Was I originally started to film this just as an idea for utopia here? So you start on a basic level, and you give everyone housing and food. And I don't mean you give them all a house for free. I mean you build community housing like I was just describing, so that everybody has a roof over their head. And then you have our capitalism social structure on top of that. So you have socialism on the bottom, where everybody gets food as a basis, and it's made extremely cheap. And I'm not saying that a turkey needs to cost $3. I'm saying rice needs to be $1 for a bag, for a meal. I mean, I can go out on the streets and I can ask somebody for $1, and I'll probably get $1 after asking 2 people. $1's not that much money. So we have that as a basis of cheap food and cheap rent. I mean, I'm pretty sure people can afford $40 a month for having a place to live. I mean, there's people living in their cars. Stop making it illegal in cities for people to live in their cars, and you will start to have more prosperity, because people don't have to worry about where to live, and then they can turn around and go, well, I need to shave and I need to go find a job. Okay, I need to bottom line this, because this video is getting really, really big, and there is an upload limit to what I can put online. We need to change the way that our government runs. Our government is currently kind of batting at different situations, and for some reason our debate is currently going into what kind of a gun you can have. And not to strike this video into gun control or anything like that, but we're for some reason debating the looks of a weapon, and that's really what it does boil down to. If you look at the difference between a normal carbine rifle, I'm probably not even pronouncing this right. I'm not a gun nut, so I'm not going to be able to give you proper pronunciation here. But we're going down to the difference of having a proper pistol grip down to having a gun stock. And I can go get a rifle that works the same way as an AR-15, but it's not called an AR-15 because it's not combat ready. And for some reason our government is jumping up and down about this when we have a homeless population here in the United States, and we're supposed to be the leaders of the free world, and we're supposed to be the most prosperous place here in the world, and yet we have a homeless population, and people aren't stopping and saying, you know, we need to fix this first before we go on the other issues. And then I have severe ADHD, and it's probably very apparent within this video. I do apologize. So basically we have socialism and capitalism, and maybe somewhere we'll end up working in communism. But we need to stop saying we need this one form of government. We need to actually turn around and start putting different things together. And maybe it's not going to work properly for the first couple of years. So what? That's the point of working out kinks in a system. The entire way of government within the entire system of humankind is just a one big giant experiment. In truth, it's human nature to be very angry and destructive, and yet the same nature is also human nature to be peaceful and loving and caring to others. So to try to not have my ADHD go off again here, My idea here is you take different standards of government and you put them together. I believe that we could turn around and make rice or some kind of a basic form of food, not genetically modified here, and that's an entirely different topic to run off in some other direction. But I believe we need to watch what our foods are, and we could make a very basic staple cheap for the homeless and for the poor. And then we need to change the ways that we look at homeless shelters, and we need to have a change in mindset. But if we turn around and we start making our poor more prosperous, and we start making it so people can find food and people can find shelter, people will stop and they will say, well, you know what, I need a job, let's go get a job. People will stop and say, you know what, maybe this will help somebody if I spend this money, so I'm going to go and I'm going to treat myself to a luxurious dinner, and I'm going to tip the waiter a little bit extra this time. Or maybe, I think you're getting the point. One of the points that I'm making here is we need a mental change here in the entire world. The other mental point is that we need to start experimenting with other ideas of government and other ideas of being able to regulate ourselves and other ideas of being able to change how we run, because it's failing. And if you look around in the world, you can see anywhere that it's failing. And we need to pick ourselves up and move in a different direction before we are rock bottom and incapable of turning around ourselves and trying to stand up as an entire whole of a world. To the point where we need to take drastic measures. I mean, there's hundreds of different things that I could try to give forward as evidence. The European Union is crashing. We are currently fighting a war in overseas from the United States. It's no longer the point of what we were supposed to be doing. We've already killed Osama bin Laden. I remember back in 2002, they came out with playing cards for the military soldiers, and they all had faces on them, and who was at what rank and where. Most of those cards, you can take a pen today and scratch out. So there's 52 cards. You can scratch out probably around 41 of those names, no problem, because they're all dead. And that was the control hierarchy that the United States published at the beginning of this war. Why are we still overseas still? And we also have the fact that we are now losing more soldiers to suicide than we are to actual combat. There's a homeless population here in the United States. There's a starvation homeless population around the entire world. And for some reason, our governments are yelling and bickering at one another about how we need to run different militarized states and how we need to have different types of gun control. And we need a change in mentality. We need a change in thinking. We need a change in how we run things. And I am not one to tell you how to do it. I'm 23 years old. I can't tell you what will work in this world. I can't tell you what is going to fix this, but I can tell you it needs to change. I can give you suggestions, I can give ideas, but quite frankly, we need a think tank of some of our brightest minds in this world to come together and say we need to fix things, and we need things to happen. And that is the point of this video. And I have no idea why it has taken me 13 minutes to get around to that point. But, yeah. So there, I guess that point's made. There's probably going to be a few more of these videos, and I'm actually going to try to take my medication and stay on track of a conversative point and try to say things of Opinions by Kyle, because I've decided I need to just put my mind out there and be more open source to the world. And maybe my mind might change the opinions of others. You never know. And honestly, I encourage you to do the exact same thing. Start putting your mind out there. Let people come to you, and maybe you can sway opinions. I quite frankly am starting to listen to others around me, and I'm coming to see that there is more of a spirituality, an art culture awakening going on around here in the world, and I want part of that. And I'm having ADHD some more. The point has been made in this video. And the point of it that I really want to put across is that we need to change how we think in this world. And quite frankly, I think we need to put together a think tank of some of our brightest minds to be able to stop and say, you know, this is a blueprint that we might be able to get to work. Let's try it. And we need to find pieces of nations to be able to say, you know what, here's these 16 cities. You go do whatever the hell you want with them, and we will back you up. And if we need to pick you back up, we will. But go figure something out new over there. Nobody's going to do that, but it's still an idea. So anyhow, I'm going to stop this video now simply because I've been rambling for a little while, but I think you get a point. I think you've drawn something from this video, and if you haven't, you need to go chase YouTube around a bit more and find more thought patterns and open your mind. Because we can fix things. It's just we need to start now.